My name is Daisy Escobar. I am a 38-year-old Salvadoran woman.
Where does your story begin? What moments shaped the woman you are today?
I was born in East LA to a Salvadoran single mother. I lived in LA with my grandparents, my mom, and all of my tias. One of the difficult experiences I would say in my early childhood was that my mom, she had to work long hours, and she would ask neighbors or family members to pick me up from school, and oftentimes they were unable to. So I remember there was a point where I would be at the principal's office waiting long hours to get picked up, and there were a couple of times when my mom had to leave work early because no one, or the person who she had asked to pick me up, didn't pick me up. And so a couple of times they threatened with calling child support on her, or child services on her. And so um, that was something that really impacted me. So I decided to actually start walking home myself. So I was a kindergartner and I was walking home alone. So I think that definitely shaped me. When I was about 6 years old, my mom actually married my stepdad and we moved to the suburbs. So that was a very big shift because I was used to, in my community in LA, I could just kind of roam around and play with the kids in the community. And when we moved to the suburbs, my mom actually started working nights so that she could take care of me and my younger siblings. And so things changed a lot because she was home and she was able to pick me up at school, which was great. And I know that working nights was a big sacrifice for her. But my stepdad was very, very strict. And that's something that I really had to, it was a change for me because growing up in my early years, I was kind of able to roam around free. And then being in the suburbs was a completely different experience. I wasn't allowed to do much. I didn't really have a social life. And so that definitely impacted me. Another challenge that I remember having was grappling with assimilation because when you go to school, it's like everything's English, English, English. But at home, my parents, and I really appreciate that they did this, but they forced me to speak Spanish at home. And so I was able to keep, that part of my culture. And back then, as a child, I would be like, why am I having to speak, Spanish? But now I truly appreciate that they did that. And another thing was because they were so strict, that also taught me how to be very disciplined. And they really showed me how to appreciate hard work. So that definitely has had a very deep impact in my life.
When did you face the fire? How did you rise from struggle with strength and grace?
I think because I grew up, most of my years was very in a very coddled way. It was hard for me when I had to leave home and go to college. So that meant taking out loans and becoming an adult, paying for rent, getting a job. So that shift was very, very difficult for me. And I remember that, one of the ways in which I coped with that was traveling. Traveling really helped to heal me in a way. It was a very slow start because I didn't have a lot of money to do so, but slowly I started traveling more and more, and it became really just a healing kind of therapy for me in a way. And so far, I've traveled to 53 countries and counting. So that's something that really helped me during those difficult times. But I think that I mentioned my parents were very strict, and in that sort of way they kind of took away my independence, and having that stripped from you and then having to go out into the real world was very hard. But I did appreciate that I had kind of those skills of hard work, and I was able to graduate high school as valedictorian, and I was the first in my family to get a college degree, and I went on to become the first in my family to get a master's.
How has being Latina shaped your path? In family, work, art, activism, sports, or the heart's calling?
I think my bilingual gift became my profession. So whenever my parents would tell me, habla en español, like that definitely shaped me and it helped me to actually land my job, which is what I do now. And I think that I teach Spanish and I teach ethnic studies. And one of the things that I always try to teach my students is to embrace their culture and not hide from it. And I remember being that little girl who tried so hard to not embrace it. And so that's definitely something that, I try to definitely teach them in the classroom. And it's something that I find very important and valuable.
What victory lights your night sky? What does it mean for you and us?
I think one of my biggest victories I see is I actually met the love of my life in high school. He's my high school sweetheart, and we've been together for over 20 years now. Um, we actually bought our first home at 28 years old, right before we got married. And so I'm very proud of that. But I'm also proud to be an hermana mayor to my two younger siblings as well. Definitely being able to take students abroad on 5 different occasions. That was something that I look back on and think, oh wow, that was crazy, but it was also really special.
When the world tried to erase you, what brought you back into your own light?
I think imposter syndrome is definitely something I still grapple with today. Just asking myself, do I really deserve everything that I've accomplished? But I think that every time I tell my story in a classroom or a student can identify with, our history, um, that just reminds me that my Salvadoran heart beating in this world is not only deserving, but necessary.
What wisdom flows from you to the next generation of Latinas?
I think that just overall, I think that that sense of like doubting yourself is something that many of us grapple with. But I think it's something that even though it might not never completely go away, I think that it's working through it. And for me, it's through travel. I definitely feel like I've used that as a therapy to keep going and motivating me. So if I can inspire anybody in that way, then, that's what I'll continue to do, to tell my story and to inspire people with travel and culture and just, again, embracing our culture.